007 First Light is Uncharted 4 without long climbing sections, but bigger. Stealth here is more like Splinter Cell actually than Hitman. First because Bond moves way better than Agent 47, traversing around the map even if you aren't doing anything is fun to do because Bond moves so well. Sometimes the camera might get in the way and you might go somewhere you didn't want to, but that happens less and less as you progress and get used to the game. Another thing that is in Hitman-like is that maps are multi-leveled. They aren't sprawled out as much as recent Hitmans, which I do love. You are always close to the action. Having said that, social stealth is a part of First Light, but it is more creative. It's not just changing disguises. You can bluff enemies, which suits Bond very well. I can't imagine Agent 47 charming enemies. James Bond on the other hand, hell yeah. This is a young Bond which translates to gameplay as well. Things are almost never in control. You rely on plot armor basically. Even when Bond tries to bluff, it's not in the cool, composed way an older James Bond would. He's basically winging it. Nathan Drake from Uncharted is very close to how Bond feels here. Competent of course, but not so much that you lose interest. Speaking of which, this game takes more inspiration from Uncharted than any other game. Even moving around, the way Bond interacts with the environment is Uncharted 4-like. But even so, Uncharted feels smoother even 10 years later. But where 007 First Light stands out is this game has no gameplay sections that you have to get through to get to the good stuff. Stealth is a combination of actual sneaking around, which IO Interactive have never done this well. Social stealth, which IO Interactive are the undisputed king of, a dynamic hand-to-hand combat system that has more depth than a typical action-adventure. Gunplay is challenging in the best way possible. I don't know why, but action games, especially shooters, are way too easy. There's no need to think, but here you have to think and fast as well. Keep moving, just staying behind cover won't work either. And playing on medium, I think hard will be even more fun because there are so many gameplay elements and the only time you'll use it is when you have to. Guns feel okay, not too powerful, but they don't feel like PB guns either. There's so much going on during combat sections, you won't even have time to breathe, let alone notice these little factors. You have silent takedowns, which never seem silent, but they are. You have judo trips, wrestling, and finishers, which are basically kickboxing combinations. You can throw enemies, which has never felt so satisfying. You can throw them into the environment and interact with walls and objects, kind of like sleeping dogs, or you can just throw them straight off. Throwing objects, including guns, is an option. There's so much freedom, I am kind of surprised. On their first try, IO Interactive have made an actual action game, not a Hitman with more guns. One slight issue I have been facing is the camera is unreliable. You can kind of float around if you try to move too much to evade attacks. This might be a me thing because it's happening less often as I keep progressing. There is more emphasis on unarmed combat. You can't even shoot until you have the license to kill. A nice gameplay element to encourage creativity instead of just shooting everyone, which is not what this game is about. Having said that, shooting everyone is an option. I recently played Hitman, so I kept restarting to previous checkpoints when I got detected. I've stopped doing that because the game kind of expects you to mess up. There are gameplay mechanics just for that scenario. When you get detected, you can bum rush enemies. Even if you don't, you can fight and take the enemy down. Not everyone in the area will be alerted. Fast-paced movement here lends itself to that kind of combat. You don't sit in cover and shoot. You move, shoot, get close to someone, use unarmed combat, use your fancy watch. That is during stealth sections that got out of control, by the way. Full-on action sequences are absolutely unbelievable. Maps are Hitman-like and missions are Hitman-like as well. You'll spend a lot of time in any given map, but the game is more linear. It wants you to follow a certain path. I couldn't go into an area at one point, then I realized the game was forcing me one way, which makes sense. This is not a sandbox, not even close. If cutscenes pop up from time to time, you are on the right path. Talking of cutscenes, there are lots of them compared to Hitman. Even in between, you'll talk to people, try to charm them. Eavesdropping is a big gameplay element. NPCs will drop clues or important information that can be used to progress, like mission stories in Hitman, but these are shorter and there are more hints sprinkled in each part of the map. Mission design is more varied. The game has surprised me plenty already, but there is a template. Start with stealth, you'll be guided towards various checkpoints with cutscenes, then you will be directed to a full-on action set piece. Gameplay is way better and faster than a typical Hitman. Hitman games have never been the smoothest gameplay wise. To go from that to an Uncharted-like game is a big leap, and IO Interactive have done a great job. These sequences are bigger and maybe even better than those Uncharted 4 sequences. But it's still not Uncharted level of fluidity though. There are invisible walls in some areas, movement is jittery sometimes, but none of this is major enough to be game breaking. As I get used to the game's world, I am already looking past them. This game starts off a little like Hitman, and then there is this one long action sequence, and that is where you are gonna get absolutely obsessed. Seriously, this is like injecting adrenaline directly into your veins. I'm not even an action guy, but that chase sequence made this feel like a Bond game. Driving is a little weird because cars are almost too responsive. When you turn, they turn right away. That makes cars feel weightless at times when you're turning at low speeds especially. But by the looks of it, driving is something you do here and there, and for that, the driving system is good enough. The story so far has been intriguing because this is a young Bond, you see more of a team around him. The game does a good job developing these characters early on. Narrative has never been IO Interactive's strong suit, but an already established IP helps a lot. So far, I am enjoying seeing a greener Bond. I kind of expected that, but didn't think I'd like side characters this much. No spoilers here, but you will be invested, that is for sure. As for Bond himself, he is different from what we've seen in media, but he is growing on me. Transition from this to a fully realized 007 will be a treat to watch. Other characters in MI6, M, Q are living up as well. Scenes with Q are some of my favorite scenes in Bond movies. It's not as wacky here, but no complaints so far. 007 First Light is one of the best action games of the recent past, no doubt. These games have a tendency to be basic, but First Light is not. It is a Game of the Year contender for me. It's not a big fantasy open world RPG, but it does what it's supposed to really well. Click the video on screen to see a series that heavily inspired 007 First Light, Hitman, ranked from worst to best. Like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching and have a great day wherever you are.